Launched. Are we live? Well, it says that we're live here. Hello everyone. How are you all doing? This is going to be a bit of an impromptu stream, so it's going to be a lot more chill than even usual.
Hello
And
everyone. How are you all doing?
I can hear myself, Lewis. I can hear myself.
I
You're
saw it
echoing, I
out.
think.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, as I said, this is. I can still hear myself a little bit. I think you need headsets or something like
How about
that.
now?
Do you testing. Just a little bit. I can hear like a little bit of an echo.
How about now?
Testing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think it's fine now. Yes,
Put it
1,
even
2, 3,
further.
1, 2, 3, yes. Okay, I think it's good.
It will be better. It will be better for the debate anyway. Like I said, I'll use my desktop.
So I'll just be straight up honest. This is an impromptu stream. I kind of wanted to do this because just to make sure how the debate, like the setup, the live stream will go. I can still hear myself echoing. Dang.
I think my microphone sensitivity is too high.
I think so, yeah.
How about now?
We'll see. Well, hold up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We look really stupid, but yes, I have to admit it. Like, imagine.
It's not me at this point.
Maybe I don't know. It can't be me though. But this is gonna be really stupid when people like look at this, like they're like, "Oh, this is an old stream. Let me check it out because I have nothing better to do." And they're like,
"Talking, how's that?"
Okay, sure, yeah, you can do that. Okay, yeah, that sounds better. And if you're talking and I can't, I'll just tell you to unmute. So I want to do this impromptu, kind of just random stream, podcast, whatever. You can talk about anything, literally anything from the chat, because I wanted to see how the connection and everything about the stream is going to go before the debate. If you didn't know, there's going to be a debate between me and a Twitter apologist who's a one-off site. We're going to be debating in 2 days, I believe. Yes, Saren Zilitz. So if you didn't know, tune in for that. It's going to be live streamed on my channel as well. So if you miss it, you can always watch the recording. And I think it's going to be great. Lewis knows I want to get this debate. He knows that I try to get this debate ever since really last Lent. So 9-10 months ago, maybe. I try to get this debate, and every time there was a delay, but Lewis is a diplomacy genius, and he managed to broker a deal, and we managed to get this. And when I say broker a deal, it wasn't as if either of us wanted anything unreasonable. It just couldn't happen. There was a lot of delays, not from me, because I am a loser who has infinite amount of time. He had to delay it, so I don't like causing difficulties with people when I'm trying to do something. Except if they're loose, I take 10 minutes. I come here 10 minutes late when I say let's do a stream, but that's a different topic. So, there's that debate that's going to be. I think it's going to be fun. Lewis is going to host it as well. So thank you for that, because I can't stream. My internet connection is terrible. I live in a village. Okay, I'm a poor man. Please send me money. No, I'm just kidding. But I live in a village. Our internet connection is not good. Everything else is really good. It's just the internet connection is just not good. So I cannot stream. So thank you, Lewis, for doing the stream as well. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we can, as I said, we can talk about anything. And we can even get to the chat as well. Do you have anything to add, Lewis? Or
yeah, I wanted to I mean, it's not like we're going to have many viewers, but I suppose if I say it might spread like wildfire. But let's just say, I mean, we're keeping it hush-hush, but I think now I can start kind of teasing it. First of all, I've just finished doing editing half of the video, Ubi Petrus's video, on the main forgeries that were used to prop up the papacy. So he's got, like, it's going to be, for non-Patreon subs, it's going to be like a 46-minute video on the forgeries, and the other 46 minutes or whatever is going to be on Patreon. But bigger than that is he's done he's done a script now. It just needs to get recorded and turned into a video by me on responding to the Diamond Brothers on the church councils and Florence.
That's exciting news. And Ubi is just doing. I do, when I do long videos, it's low quality anyways. When I say low quality, it's like it's not with like the fancy video editing. Ubi is just doing great content in general. So amazing stuff. And I didn't even know about this. So we can expect some great things very, very soon. I'm not logged in on StreamYard, so you are, so you can bring up the cons. But Chase, apparently there's a rumor that I'm apparently Steven Seagal's son. Who's Steven Seagal? Can we get his picture on the stream? Wait, let me look him up. Steven Seagal.
Again, yeah, my peripherals are ruined, so.
Oh, well, that's gonna be difficult. Well, you're gonna just.
You should be able to do it yourself because you count as a host as well.
Well, I'm not signed up. I mean, I'm not logged in. Sorry. So, and if I try to, it will get me out. So, it's not a big deal. But I'm looking at Steven Seagal's face, and I look nothing like this guy. What the? Oh, there's a picture of my dad and Vladimir. I mean, Steven Seagal and Vladimir Putin, but I look nothing like him. But anyway, I'm seeing two people asking the same question. Mr. K and Nadim Yusuf, they ask, this is a very strange question. What about the saints in the Catholic Church? If there's only one true church, how there be saints in the Oriental Catholic churches? Thanks, brother. Very simple answer. They're not. I'm not saying they're all in hell or whatever. They're just not canonized. We don't consider them saints in our church. I don't think we ever said such a thing. So that's only an ecumenist will say, yeah, they're saints too. Are there, like, for example, are there pre-schism saints that are like both claim to be theirs? Yeah, I mean, that's going to be natural because both churches, for example, Catholic and Orthodox, claim to be part of the first millennium church, at least officially. Although when you look at the Tradcast today, they definitely are not helping their case, but they're going to claim the pre-schism saints for sure. But post-schism saints, no, we don't recognize them. Or saints that they exclusively have in their church, no. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen someone really make that claim, as in like broad claim. Have you heard this before, or?
Well, I mean, perhaps you might have heard us referring to post-schism Roman Catholic saints as Saint Thomas Aquinas or Saint Francis of Assisi or something. So he thought that
I don't do that. Oh, did I cut you? Hello?
No, that's all I wanted to say.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's what I could think of was maybe you just heard people calling them
by
saints.
accident, yeah.
Or just
I don't
know. That's just how they're known I don't even know. Do they refer to them as saints, Saint X in academia? I think they might even.
They don't. They usually don't. It really depends. They either don't refer to anyone as saint, or they refer to everyone as saint. Usually, that's kind of what have been my experience from reading.
Like, unless you have two people with the same name and you want to distinguish one from the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Someone's asking you if you're Emma Watson's brother. Who was that again? I know who was Emma Watson, but what does she look like again?
Oh, isn't she the actress Hermione?
Yeah.
From Harry? Yeah.
Are you her brother?
No, I'm not. Perhaps I wish, because then, maybe I'd have monies.
Why?
Maybe I wouldn't have money.
That's a good reason, having a lot of money. But then again, you'd have to deal with the fact that your sister is at the very best a Antichrist puppet. So I don't know if I will be happy with that. Well, then again, we all have those kinds of problems. Maybe, I don't know, but
I don't know how
Chase is getting. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know how co-opted she is. Like, I don't think she's some kind of like up there Hollywood in terms of being really.
She created He for She. Well, not created, but she's the one who really pushed it mainstream. Mm-hmm. And I'm really butthurt because my football team is sponsored by he for she. So every time I look at their beautiful jersey, I see the he for she sign. I'm like, ugh. I was actually like, dude, I actually felt like I'm gonna like not support any team because this is some really stupid stuff. But it's even in Turkey, there's that kind of like stuff going on, which a lot of people might be surprised. But I mentioned this multiple times. Every time you look at the news, there is an I'm not saying it's not a real problem, but the Turkish news media explicitly always, like every single day, shows, oh, look at this woman who got beaten up by their boyfriend or husband every single time. And like just every single day, they just push it and push it. I'm not saying it's not true. Is it a problem? It most likely is. But it's being like kind of used as something, like kind of like give birth to this new feeling with a lot of citizens to cause more problems within men and women. And it's working. And I think it's just what has been happening. So I just remembered that Emma Watson was basically the kind of pioneer of the he for she really nonsense from what I remember. I remember her making the speech
Dead though, isn't
years
it?
ago.
It's not something that's still going like BLM or whatever. It's kind of dead, isn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is, for example, he for she is like an actual like organization by the UN at this stage. Like it's not like BLM where it's like supposedly grassroots, right? Because that's what BLM is. It's supposedly like the point is that it's basically grassroots. It's supposed to be. But he for she isn't really like that. He for she is like from the top down, whereas BLM has this vibe of bottom down, and it's also top down. But so, for example, you won't see BLM sponsoring football teams, but he for she will be sponsoring football teams for sure. And this again happens in Turkey.
Shining Diamond asks, how did the debate with Severin Zealot get set up? So what I did was I did what I what the right thing to do is I atted him on Twitter with a bit of a spicy tweet to get his attention, and then he responded very cordially, and so yeah, and then we just Twitter DM'd each other, and that was that. It was kind of I almost forgot about it though, because it was kind of like, oh, I can do it in like, what was it like? It's like, oh, I can do it in like a month basically, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll at you nearer the date then. And then I don't know, I was just doing something online, and I just remembered. I was like, "Oh yeah, I should probably get back to that." And then yeah, that happened. So
Yep. And I saw some other question. Another quick question. Did all church fathers believe in energy essence distinction? Since Father John Bear did a lecture on St. Irenaeus believing in divine simplicity. First of all, I would recommend you check out the basic Orthodox terms video, Orthodox Terminology 101. That's one of the titles. Divine simplicity does not contradict essence energies distinction. So that's that. What we will call there are different simplicity models that deal with different issues. So there's the Neoplatonic simplicity that just says all distinction is opposition. This is a kind of model that the Roman Catholic Church really has inherited. We don't inherit that kind of a simplicity model. So the church fathers do explicitly teach. I mean, it's all, you can watch the Introduction to Essence Energies distinction. I mean, it's in scripture. Like it's not some made up like post scripture 4th century thing. It's in the Old Testament. Like, it's used in the Old Testament. It's used in the New Testament. St. Paul uses it. Solomon uses it. Many different Jewish authors use it in the Old Testament. It's in Wisdom of Solomon. Church fathers use it. It's there. I mean, it is just straight up there. That's why I don't really like focus on it too much, because to me it's like, yeah, I mean, it's already there. And the funny thing is, I'm not going to act as if the Orientals are divided on this, because when you read Severus, he believes this too, like for 100%. It's very obvious. I will probably Nestorians also do. I'm 90% sure on that. So it's really not even that big of a strange debate, I will say. It's kind of like a very simple thing to understand. So yeah, that's what I will basically say. But Lewis does more in depth. I'm like, to me, I'm basic level on that kind of stuff. Not basic level, but I don't go too much in depth because my focus is something else usually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think it would be a bit. I think it's a bit of a reach to say every single individual church father believed in the essence energies distinction, because I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe some of the earlier ones did hold to perhaps some a more ADS, a closer to ADS view, and that's because there was a lot of kind of Neoplatonic currents going around as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like Boethius, for example, would, as I understand, holds to a pretty strong view of simplicity. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's kind of another one of those things like the divine persons, where the picture gets kind of more focused the more the issues come out over time, rather than
Mm-hmm.
something that's kind of just completely formulaically set out at the beginning.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
that's what I'd say about that.
And we believe, and there's a consensus, right? What the Saint Vincent of Lerins in Communitorium says, it's consensus, like it's a consensus of the fathers, and that's what we believe. So, for example, you can like this is what happened in the iconoclast debate that the Seventh Council dealt with. Like you can have like 50 church fathers that say the same exact thing. Bringing one or two church fathers is not gonna like annul that argument. Okay, so this is kind of like one of the issues at the Iconoclast Council. Like they brought all these church fathers, and Iconoclast was like, but what about Epiphanius of Cyprus? Even if it was true, like that's just one person. Like that's just one church father that doesn't like icons. And the other one was Eusebius of Caesarea, who's like an Arian. I think I got the guy right, right? It's been a while since I made it. My memory is really bad, but those are like the two figures they found as like, oh, look at these guys. These are iconoclasts. It's like, okay, how about you look at all the other ones that are like pro icons? It's really like not that's basically how I see it. Like there's a big majority of the church fathers by numbers so openly believe in it. It's as simple as that, I think. Um, and and yeah, that will be my answer. Do you have?
Yeah, I think I think you could. I mean, I haven't read Irenaeus yet, but I would think that if he's refuting Gnostics, it would be, I don't. There's got to be some kind of belief in some kind of distinction there, because I mean, he talks about deification, he talks about the monarchy of the Father, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it would surprise me if, like, I think the thing is that you can read a lot of the fathers. I mean, this was what was done in academia for the longest time before recently, was you would just read the Cappadocians through an Augustinian lens, and then lo and behold, you'd get like an ADS view pop out the other side of your interpretation. So I think part of what makes a difference is what kind of, like I said, lens you're using to read the fathers. So I think that there's debate to be had there in terms of Irenaeus. Probably it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he's definitely Justin Martyr, and I think Ubi has a Florilegium, so two Florilegiums on essence energy distinction. There might
Yes.
be
Yes.
Irenaeus in there, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can link that Florilegium in the
But even if you
peripherals.
did,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, because well, we have councils that have ruled on it, and we have. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the Cappadocians are kind of the gold standard for triadology. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the energy distinction is very clearly there. So even if it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
in Irenaeus, um, it doesn't really matter, like David said.
Mm-hmm. And Riddle Me This asks, if the alternative for Erdogan in Turkey is progressivism, would you take it? That's a hard question, not because I actually don't really care about Erdogan that much. I'm ambivalent, but the reason why I'm not saying no is because, for example, prostitution and abortion here in Turkey is actually legal, to my knowledge. I think abortion was or is. Prostitution definitely is legal here. That much I know. So it's not as if he's
That
really
coming with
traditional
Ataturk.
either. Huh?
And
Yeah.
did that come with Ataturk and the secularizer? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, so it's not as if he's really that traditionalist either. It's kind of like he's basically Turkey's Putin. I mean, people assume Putin is a traditionalist. I mean, that's like you can't call him a liberal either, but he's not a traditionalist either. He's not either. He gives that kind of impression on you. But for whatever reason, this might be legitimate political reasons, NGO pressure, might be a lot of stuff that we don't know about. Or maybe just because they're liars, right? That's a possibility. And in fact, that's the main possibility people go for, is that, to me, I don't know, but I will say, um, whatever works best for the church is what I want. I just don't think the Turkish progressives will really do that, because I know a lot of those kinds of people. They're very liberal, but at the same time, there's this kind of hidden. Um, I don't like using chauvinism as a word because it's a really like bad term, but they do have this kind of hidden chauvinism there, and it can like really give you the worst case scenario, right? That kind of hidden chauvinism with a lot of his other supporters, it's not there as much. I haven't seen it as much, but with the liberals, it is there. Like you will, like you, it's there's this like meme where like Europeans, when they talk about like blacks in America, they're like hippies or peace signs, whatever, and then they talk about gypsies and they turn into uh, Adolphus, right? That meme can basically come true. So that's something that does occasionally happen, and so that's why I don't really know. Whatever happens, happens. That's basically what I think. Um, Even when I was political, I never cared about Turkish politics because it was always never really liked it. Do you agree with the statement that Islam starts as just one of many heresies in pre-Islamic Arabia, and due to its violent nature, it grew faster than any other? I don't know about if we're gonna call Islam a heresy, shouldn't we call everything a heresy? That's kind of what I think. What do you think? And that's the
Well,
logic
damaging
behind it, right?
is a heresy and is heresiology, but I wouldn't say that it started as one of the heresies in Arabia. I would say it's kind of, it seems to me it was kind of a culminate or a kind of a mashing together of a lot of different heresies in that region and the paganism and that's my impression. Um,
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, for example, if I was a Muslim and a Christian came up to me and said, "Oh, you're just a Christian heresy," I would like, haha, that's cute. That's what, like I will say I will have that kind of a feeling. So I'd like it doesn't what I'm saying is it doesn't have that kind of rhetorical effect because you're basically admitting that the heresy became more widespread than the main religion itself, which is like I don't want but then again, like it might be true. It doesn't have that rhetorical effect. Is it true? I don't know. I don't really if we call Islam a heresy, I just feel like we just have to call everything a heresy, which is technically true. I mean, technically it's true, but it's just one of those debates that like I look at and it's like, whatever you want to call it, it's okay. But I don't think it has that rhetorical strength. And I think that's actually the most important part of this debate. Because, like, for example, let's say you convince the Muslim, oh, okay, Islam is a Christian offshoot or whatever. He can still argue it's true, right? So it does. At that point, what matters is the rhetoric. Does it work? It works for Christians. It works for, but then again, it's like, for example, if a Roman Catholic says, "Oh, Islam is a Christian heresy," like, do we consider Islam in the same category as like other denominations? Then I don't like that. Like, I don't like that kind of a conclusion. I don't think it makes. I don't know. Because at that stage, what does it distinct? What is it? How is it distinguished? Right? It's kind of strange. It's a strange kind of rhetorical device to use if it is used that way, which I generally see it being used that way. In Saint John's Day, I can definitely understand why he understood it that way for sure. But over time, it seems like it didn't go the way we thought it will go over time. I think. I don't know. Do you have any comments or anything? Okay. Oh.
No, I mean, yeah, I think that, I mean, yeah, obviously Damascene lists it as a heresy, but it's,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's just deviation from orthodoxy, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, like you said, anything could be, pretty much everything would be classable as a heresy in that case.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, in one sense, but if you mean, is it kind of a traditional
It,
heresy, in contravention to the councils, as like there was like this prominent heretic or something, then no.
yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the kind of like the issue
Like he's
that
not a
they're like.
Christian who defected or like went wrong or
Mm-hmm.
something, if that's the
Like for example, a Donatist will say, "Well, I'm a Christian," right? Or Nestorian will say, I'm a Christian still," or any of the other groups, even really like the silly fringe groups, they will say that. Islam won't say that. That's the kind of other thing. So it doesn't really seem that way. Heinrich asks, was Severus an iconoclast? I read images of the divine that he, Peter Fuller, and Zinnius were iconoclasts. I don't know. Um, the only way you can convince me, and the only way I will use that as an argument, is if I see him argue against icons. I haven't seen him argue for icons, but not against either. And there were icons at his time, which means, and seeing that the Coptic tradition still has iconography, that seems like a stretch. But they're probably all it shows is that there were Orthodox Christians that claimed he was an iconoclast. Whether he actually was one, maybe he is. I mean, maybe they have like documents that we don't have today. That's completely possible. So I just don't know, and I don't like speculate about things like that. I just don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah. What about man? I wish. What's the difference between divine simplicity and absolute divine simplicity? Luis, you can go ahead. You can hit with this.
Yeah, so what we call absolute divine simplicity is the view that all of God's attributes and actions are identical to his essence, and they're all identical to one another, right? And like a strict
Mm-hmm.
identity, as in this same thing. You only have a kind of a conceptual distinction you get as a creature when you see the effects. You can make a
Mm-hmm.
distinction between like love or mercy and stuff and such. But in God, in the divine essence, it's all one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of simplicity, in other senses, well, there's first of all there's the idea that God is not composed of physical parts.
Mm-hmm.
So he isn't spatially or temporally extended or anything like that. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't exist in time. So
Mm-hmm.
there isn't kind of like space that delineates either the persons of the divine of the Trinity or
Mm-hmm.
his actions, you could say, in that sense. But then there's also the idea that God isn't affected by anything external to him. So he is unaffected by any kind of thing that could compel him or make him act in a certain way, and that's another sense of simplicity that Dr. Bradshaw talks about in his book, which
Mm-hmm.
I would go and quote, but I can't be bothered to get it because this is a chill stream. So
Yeah.
you can DM me on Twitter, on Discord, and I'll send you a page.
Mm-hmm.
But I still need to read that. I'll eventually read that book by Radigalowitz on divine simplicity according to Nissa and stuff. And as I understand, he points out Nissa has an essence energies view, although he doesn't couch it in exactly those terms. But also he thinks he can hold to simplicity at the same time. So I haven't read that book, but if you're looking into it, that's a good book to read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's no parts or anything that make up the Trinity. So there's not this like one thing you can. It's not like a cake you can take out. And it's like, okay, I have like like 125% of God in my hand. I just took it out. Like it doesn't work that way either. It's not made up of these parts that like complete. That's like one of who's that Muslim scholar Jay debated? Shabir
Shabir.
Ali, right? Yeah, he kind of thought of it that way because he made a critique. It's like, oh, there's these three persons and they're one God and they make up one God. So there's actually four gods because the way he thought of it is like you have one person God, other person God, another person God. Three of them make up one God, but then logically that has to mean four gods, right? Because they compose something new comes out of it. That's called God. So that's kind of like the argument he taught. And I bet he thought he was really intelligent when he made that argument, but that argument was made by a bunch of idiots in the second century, and no one made that argument ever since, to be honest with you. But yeah,
it's kind of
there's
like
no such view
kind of like
in
when you talk
either
about,
senses.
it's also kind of like when you talk about Christology. You know how you talk about the natures prior to the incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about the human nature conceptually before the incarnation, in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, and then them coming together to make the
Mm-hmm.
composite hypostasis.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like out of, in,
Mm-hmm.
into natures. So
Yeah.
like God isn't like that. Like it's not like you have like the Trinity coming out of these three persons, or
Mm-hmm.
you could never use that kind of language for the Trinity, or God. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not like he. And this is exactly what Saint Basil, and I saw a post of Saint Justinian condemning this as well. Like counting the persons of the Trinity, like you increase. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're increasing from 1 to 2 to 3 in
Mm-hmm.
magnitude as you add the persons or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the perfect simultaneity from eternity. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
That's another kind of simplicity.
Yep. So a lot of Oriental Orthodox channel says, I'm excited for your debate with Severus, Severin Zelatak basically. Yeah, I'm too. We try to get this done for months. It's finally gonna happen. Some people are trying to rouse things up from both sides, trying to make it, I don't know, a bit blood sporty. I can assure you, we don't need that. The first debate wasn't even like that, to be honest with you. It was anything but blood sporty. Because if I wanted blood, I'd get it. Okay, I'd get it very easily. But we don't need that for debates. Although I think it does have a place for entertainment purposes mainly, though. But sometimes people love the aggression and the energy and the hyperactivity from both sides. Like these people really care about what they say. But sometimes it's like, no, they just want to insult the other person. But most of the time it is like these people really care about what they say. I'm sure we both care what we say. We're gonna cater to the nice guys. Okay, the nice guys are gonna enjoy this definitely.
Yeah, I'm moderating, which
Mm-hmm.
means it's going to be a very formal, hands-off debate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be informal. It's timed. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
timed statements and timed cross-examinations.
Yep.
So it's actually going to be even more strict, I think, than the last one you did.
Way more strict. Way more strict. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the
And
last one we had like a person playing moderator and debater at the same time. It's like it's just like
I
that's
was like,
definitely informal.
and then Subdeacon Karkic messaged me just like an hour ago, and he was saying, "Oh, I was co-moderating with Craig, so he saw himself as a moderator, I guess, towards the end." Uh, but yeah, no,
Like that was definitely not in the plans. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could tell it wasn't. But I just want to say, like, this is what happens when you just when you're just not an idiot. I mean, let me put it this way: so we have a lot of beef with the Copts. Like, let's just
Mm-hmm.
face it. I mean, I think the Copts are probably one of the groups that we've had kind of the most sort of just kind of venomous beef with. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're a if you used to act like an adult, I mean, this is how civil it is. Honestly, we're not gonna backstab you. We're not gonna do
Mm-hmm.
anything shady or whatever. We just want to have debates. And the reason why things get heated is because people like reason and theology are just not debating. They're just running away, and it's
Mm-hmm.
really cringe. So you have to export some spice every now and then to
Mm-hmm.
make them react and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, we're not everyone. thinks that EO's online. I mean, EO's online can get quite aggressive, but at least with us, in terms of the apologists, I mean, it's like if you just act like a normal human being and you don't do shady
Yeah,
stuff.
I will also add, it's like why are you asking me to be nice to a guy who called one of our saints a heretical Jew? It's like a cursed Jew. Like, why should I be nice to people? Like, I mean, there's that also another thing as well. Like Saint Leo, who's praying for us in heaven, he probably doesn't mind, but it's still very disrespectful to the inheritance that he has given to us. So it's like, why should I like act like everything is completely fine? Like, no, like if you're gonna be that way, I'm gonna step on your toes as well. If you're gonna be, you can say, well, this is what we think of you, but we don't have to get on each other's toes. Like if you had that kind of an understanding, of course, that's that's the understanding he gives off, which is why I never like, for example, the classic Twitter insult is monkey fizzer, right? I never called him one, for example, because why will I, right? He doesn't act like that. He doesn't attack us either in that way. But he points out, well, this is what our church thinks about you. It's like, yeah, uh, that's honesty, right? So, but some people are like, you see some people, they act like all nice. They act, oh, we're two brothers, and then they could go back to your face and say, oh, I will destroy you. In fact, you can bring two more people, I'd still destroy all three of you. And then when you call them out, and it's like, oh, I'm just joking, bro. Like who? You're trying to trick a child or something? Like who are you taught? Who do you think you're dealing with, right? And so there's also that aspect as well that I think that a lot of people are missing out on. So they only think like the outburst, meanie. It's like if you're gonna judge by that, then let's just call all of our saints meanies. I mean, read literally any polemical work of any saint, and most people say, "Oh, that's like due to the culture of their time." Number one, okay, then I can use my own culture as a shield then, because in Anatolia, in the Balkans, aggression is how we always speak. I mean, that's just how we normally are. So I can use that as an excuse. So that doesn't really say anything. And even then, it's like that's not really even an excuse. So you're basically saying that a Christian culture was wrong on how to act, but a secular culture knows more. We're supposed to believe that? I don't think so. I don't think we're supposed to believe that either. So it's like, but a lot of this is nuance, and I always say the same thing about topics like this, where you have to, where like there's behaviors you have to exhibit that seem contradictory. This is why I always say all the time, you need to read wisdom literature and you need to pray for wisdom, because that's the domain of wisdom. Being able to exhibit Christ-like behavior in the right moment is important. For example, if you're always like righteous, or if you're always, for example, just, right? If you're addicted to justice, that's not good. But if you're always merciful, that's also weakness. So you have to be wise about when to be merciful, when to be just, and all that kind of stuff. And that's why we had the lives of the saints, right? That's why we had the lives of the saints, where they know when to be what. And that, I think, is really not, that's really understated. I think it's really, really understated by a lot of Christians today. And I don't really know why, but I think it's very, very important. There's a reason why there's like 5, 6, 7 different wisdom books in the Old Testament. They're not there for show. They're important. You should read them to know how to act. I'm not saying that like I know how to act, but the saints definitely do know, and that's why we use them as examples, because they kind of this manifestation of wisdom literature, and they live that way amongst many other things, right? They're the continuation of the Book of Acts, continuation of the life of Christ. That's why, for example, when that's why Protestantism is so bland to me, because they don't have any of that. They don't have none of that. None of that exists in there, and that actually is very lacking. But yeah, I mean, as always, when I talk about something, I just forget like 5, 6 different things come to my mind. But as those are my thoughts, basically, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, I'd prefer you be direct with me and say, I think Yeah, like Lewis, I think you're a heretic. My church says you're a heretic. I think you're wrong, and here's why. Then you trying to kind of slime your way, with me, and kind of act like we're the same, and then down the
Yeah.
road, give me a shiv in the kidney. Like, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
just, and we can have, civil debates that have this kind of understanding behind them. I mean, that's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just find it odd when people kind of cry about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
Mm-hmm. People cry about it. They cry about people like, oh, you don't love enough. You're not charitable enough. And then they act uncharitable when they're like critiquing you. It's like, yeah, I mean, uh, it's really difficult to take you serious when you act like a jackass as well. If you didn't act like that, then maybe I will actually listen to you. Maybe people will actually listen to what you have to say. But if you're not consistent, then you're giving less reasons as well. I've seen this happen like even today, right now. But it's basically something that happens. That's another thing I want to point out. Like stuff like that happens every day. It's like always happens, silly stuff like that. And I don't let it get to me. It just makes me wonder, like, do these people even know what they're doing? Sometimes, like, I hope when they like as they're typing like that kind of stuff, I at least hope they're like, deep down, I know what I'm doing is not right, but you know, um, because that's I respect that. Like that's definitely something as a good attitude if that's the case. Tribal says, "Praise be to God. What are your thoughts around American Orthodox and church like OC and Goark who have an abundance of subversive clergy, and what should we, the laity, do?" Oh, talking about the problems in the church, one of the most, I think, important issues, but also one of the easiest issues to get your head lost in, because, Lewis, you will agree with me on this that even though we don't try to give off that image, there is this kind of perception. A lot of people coming into Orthodox has like, oh, Orthodoxy is where everything is okay. But as I said, we don't really try. I don't try to give off that impression. Now we don't have like, I don't know, like female undersecretaries that have voting power in councils or anything. That we don't have that, but um, we don't. We also have problems, and a lot of people kind of get black pilled about this. I thought Orthodoxy was based in red pill, but actually, it's cringe and blue pilled. No, like we can't let this kind of childish like understanding get into us. And I'm saying this to myself 2 years ago, or three, well, more so 3 years ago, um, about OC and Goark. It is definitely worrying. But I will say this. I do affirm that there's a lot of problems, but I will say this. And here's where I'm critical with a lot of the based guys here. I'm going to be critical with a lot of the or guys here. Most of you guys are going to be listening to this. Most of you guys might know me from, maybe from Discord, from Twitter, or just watch my YouTube channel. You're like, yeah, this guy's cool. This is a criticism of me to you. And I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but when I look at a lot of the people, like from our side on Twitter, Discord, and the way they kind of act in their own circles and the way they try to deal with subversives in their circles, all I can think is our priests and bishops are too good for you. Like, you people are terrible, right? I mean, I'm not kidding, I'm not joking with this, we have literal Twitter sex cults going on, okay? Literal Twitter sex cults by people claiming to be Orthodox, and people know this and they don't say anything about it. And then if you can't even act against that, then how can you expect the bishop to act against heresy? If you can't even act against really blatant leftists or heretics in your own circle, why do you expect your bishop to do that job for you? I mean, it's a really innocent question, I think. And I see a lot of really good people just play the three monkeys, and it really bothers me. It really does bother me, and it makes me really demotivated, because I feel like when I talk against this kind of stuff, like when I talk against open feminists or open heretics, and all I get really is like a couple of like buttons and all that. I just feel discouraged because I feel like all I'm saying is that, yeah, these people just agree and then nothing happens, right? And then I just think, are these people going to change bishops' minds? No, we're not going to do anything. So that's kind of like what I think. And this is something I've been thinking for a very long time. And funny enough, I see it in the scripture, Lives of Saints, even visual novels, funny enough, where really the message is that you want to change something, you got to change it yourself. Like, you want to make these big changes, look at your own environment. It's going to sound Jordan Peterson kind of stuff, but no, really, I mean, if you let's like, that's one of the things that's, oh, I have a leftist friend and he backstabbed me and he reported me to the police because I said X. Well, yeah, you what did you expect? What did you expect, man? Why are you friends with someone like that in the first place? Um, and like the times, when you look at the times, things are getting more and more serious. And what does Christ say, right? I did not come here to bring peace, but a sword. And most people say, oh, he said, I bring the sword. That means Christ wants us to go fight wars. No, he says that there's going to be division between people you love because you're going to be following him instead of others. And this is all throughout scripture. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised when it happens. Don't be surprised when you're forced to do these things. I was forced to do these things. A lot of my friends were forced to do these things. It's going to happen because the times are coming, and it's just the way the world works. And I think even priests are starting to understand slowly and slowly, yeah, we have to kind of take sides now, don't we? As they try to play the middle and compromise. That's not going to work in these times. I think this is just what I think. Most of what I said, I genuinely believe is like just orthodox mindset, but the commentary, it's just what I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe I'm just too much of a psychopath. Might be. But that's just what I think. And when I see these things, it's just how I feel about. It's like, yeah, OCA Goark, they do bad things, but like, who are the anti-originists that can they can't even stop their own circles from having sex cults? How do you guys think you're gonna actually change a bishop's mind? I don't think you can. Or like other cults that are being ran online that a lot of people are not aware of. They're just not aware of. Then I was blackpilling, but it has to be said here. It has to be said. And if no one says these things, I think it's just going to be too late. So you have to arm yourself with a lot of different things to prepare for it. And, when you look at history, that's all there is.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, of course, I might give a bit of a whiter pill here. Is you should definitely, first of all, you should pray for your clergy,
Yes.
and if you can, share your concerns with your clergy. If your parish is kind of a modernist parish, well, and you don't agree with what's going on, don't necessarily take out on the priest there because the bishop's a liberal. That's not necessarily a good idea, but withholding tithe is a way of expressing, and making it clear as well, saying, I'm not happy with the direction that the diocese is going, or something like that. That's why they have AGMs and stuff like that. But I would say what might be also a good idea is if you think you can do it, first of all, you have to try and become a vessel of virtue yourself, kind of like what David said. You have to do something about it, and that doesn't necessarily mean always looking outwards, but also looking inwards. How can I be a better Orthodox Christian? And that might allow you to perhaps be more active and have more of a important position in your parish, where eventually you can have a say and have impact. And then I think really what's going to happen is things have to be sort of grassroots. I know that there's a lot of issues with top-down bishops. If you have like a modernist synod, then it's kind of just going to perpetuate. But I mean, we can, in a sense, kind of look to what the Roman Catholics and the trads are trying to do. I mean, what are they doing? I mean, let's look the seminaries where there's mass Novus Ordo, and modernism are dying because they're not ordaining enough clergy because no one wants to be a priest. But then when you look at the trad seminaries, they have really high rates of vocation and ordination. And so you can kind of maybe play a demographics sort of thing there in terms of who's getting ordained, you know. So yeah, that's what I'd say, is that those are some options.
Yeah, definitely. So the reason why I'm saying this, a lot of people who say stuff like this, I've noticed, is they're kind of doing damage control. They're basically saying, no, 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 just listen to Jordan Peterson. Just look at, like, make your own bed. Like, no, there are real problems. Everything that, like, this guy, like Tribal said, is right. I'm not denying that. I'm giving you how you can, like, the way you can solve this problem. That's basically what I want to do. I'm giving you the solution. You might not like it, but that's the solution. That's the best solution. Maybe the solution doesn't even work, but what else? Like, do we just sit here in our PCs? Oh, this bishop just said that. Oh, really cool. Thank you for informing me. What are you going to do about it? Like, other than informing me? Because that's what the conservatives did. All they do is inform you about the hypocrisies of the left. Then what happened? Nothing. So you have to build vessels. You have to build people, arm them, right? Remember, armor of God from both wisdom literature that Protestants reject and also from St. Paul. Arm yourself, and you can actually have soldiers that can fight against. As Lewis told us about the trad seminaries, definitely. That's why I say, if you're an actual Orthodox Christian and you don't have any opposition to being clergy, you should try it. You should consider it. Like, just genuinely consider it. If you feel like, no, it's not for me, I respect that, because this is a difficult thing, right? Read St. John Chrysostom's on priesthood. It's a hard job. But if you believe you can do it, go ahead. You could probably do a better job than a lot of priests, actually. Like, if you actually arm yourself properly and unite with God. Why is the doctrine of divine processions needed in the Trinity? Is it because it differentiates the persons? Many Protestants are getting rid. First of all, why is this doctrine needed? Every time I hear a question like that, I just feel it's because it's true. Like, that's why it's just because it's true. When he says divine processions, is he referring to, because I don't know the terminology on this, what is it divine processions regularly referred to? And what was it synonyms? I probably know the synonym.
Referring to the eternal begetting and the eternal procession of the Son and the Spirit. I don't think he's referring to anything Dionysian there.
Yeah. Well, because it's just true again. I mean, it's in the scripture.
I think
it's in the scripture. It's in the creed. It's kind of like, you don't need a doctrine. Like, you can say, oh, you need it for, like, the logical conclusion in a rhetorical sense, but you don't need any doctrine. It's true because it's true. But
well, I think rejecting the eternal begetting and the procession would pretty much land you into tritheism if you still want to hold a Trinitarian.
And also that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because the whole point of the processions is that it's the mode by which the persons share the same nature and are share unity with the Father. So if that's not the case, then you just have these sort of three separate divine persons, and then you kind of just have tritheism.
And how do you distinguish them? Like, in what manners do you distinguish the persons either? I mean, as you point out, is it because it differentiates? Well, that's one of the reasons why it helps, definitely. I mean, how can you distinguish between things of the same kind by their distinct, properties and their hypostatic properties? If you don't have that, then how do you know who's the Son and who's the Father? First of all, how do you even know that there's a Son or there's a Father in the first place? It seems like there shouldn't even really be a Son or the Father. That's just some created idea given to us, when in reality, it's all just different. And as I said, it's scriptural. I mean, Protestants are getting rid of this doctrine. It's in the scripture. I mean, I know definitely Christ himself says that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father. I think I'm going off of memory. I think St. Paul says that the Son is begotten, but I'm not too sure. I definitely do know. I mean, first, Holy Spirit is proceeded from the Father. That's in Scripture. Like, that's scriptural. So if you want to reject that as a Protestant, you're kind of rejecting Scripture. What did you say?
Yeah, Jesus. Jesus says that the Spirit proceeds from the Father.
I think it was John 15:26, but I might be wrong. But I definitely know it's in John
Thanks,
for sure. So yeah, opinion on Alvin Plantinga. Mapola asks. I don't know who he is, so I have no opinions on him. I don't know any of these philosophy guys. Like, ask me about a 19th century philosopher. I don't know. Maybe one day I will know. 2 years, 3 years later, maybe I will know. I just don't know now, so I can't make any comments.
He has a good argument against naturalism, and as I understand, he kind of revolutionized the whole problem of evil debate. But I haven't read. I've only seen some videos of him talking, and he seems to have a good argument against naturalism. It's kind of transcendental.
Who had again?
Alvin Plantinga, I think he's the one who makes the argument that, well, if you're just like evolution isn't so the whole point of evolution is that it's just about propagating genes. Like, that's the purpose of it. It's not about finding truth. Like, getting at truth or getting at right beliefs isn't part of the evolutionary process. So how do you know that you're actually getting at right beliefs through evolution? If it's just there to propagate, like maybe having a completely wrong view, like maybe being wrong about everything is really evolutionary advantageous, for example. So.
Okay. I have to say this now. First of all, this is a very classic thing that people do. I'm sick of seeing this all the time. Oh, random people just bring up Jay. Now, yani ananızı mı sikti Jay yani? Why are you just bringing up random people into my stream? First of all, that's number one. This happens every time you go to Orthodox Discourse. Oh, he was mean to me. Like, why are you talking about this? I mean, complaining about this on public. Like, imagine if for example, I had an instance where who was it? Jonathan Peugeot actually like mistakenly insulted me. Do I talk about that? Like, no, because first of all, it was a mistake. But even if it wasn't a mistake, it's like he's an important guy. Like, why should I complain? That's number one. Number two, so just don't bring in like nonsense, not needed stuff about this. That's number one. Number two, I'm open to both, but your J die worship. So being a friend of someone is worship. Are you kidding me? It's so nonsensical. Am I worshiping the church fathers too? I'm just getting sick of people bringing up like Jay because they had problems with him. No, get out of here. I don't want your problems with him. This is my stream. This is what I do. If you want to bitch about him, go make your own private Discord. Don't bring this up here. Okay, that's number two. Number two, as I said before, he's a friend of mine. You're not gonna like. Should I let people attack my friend here? And if it could be Lewis too. If people came to this chat saying, "Oh, Lewis is this and that," do you think I'm gonna be fine with that? Of course not. I'm just getting sick. Like, it happens all the time. People just complain all the time. Like, dude, shut up. Seriously, shut up. What does Christ say all the time? I mean, we're supposed to love our enemies. When someone slaps us, we're supposed to turn the other cheek. But suddenly we just forget about that. And and some people are going to say, "Oh, you're being hypocritical." No. I had many people. I have personal issues with a lot of people that I'm friends with. I don't just like get mad at them, or I don't say like, "Oh, this and that." If I tell them, I tell them. If I don't need to tell them, I just say, what he did really annoyed me, but it's better for me to pray for him. So, here's an idea. If you're annoyed by me or my friends or by anyone else, why don't you pray for us? We'll be beautiful. We will appreciate it instead of just complaining about every single day. Go find something else to do, man. Because the reason why I'm getting annoyed is because I know in a year or two, the same thing is going to happen to me. In fact, it's already happening right now. You see people like going to random places like, "Oh, real medvice, this and that." Why are you gossiping about me? Or why are you gossiping about someone else? We're not the religion of gossip. So if that's going to make you, "Oh, I'm not going to be Orthodox because you worship Jay Dyer," then that's, you're mad at me because I don't let you gossip about other people. If you don't like, how can it be my issue then? I mean, it's just so annoying. And it can be like, even if like, for example, if people complain about Bible literature right now, I will get annoyed too. Again, even if I have problems with in fact, I actually had a private conversation. He's a nice guy. I talked with him. I let him know what people thought of him in a nice way. He understood, and hopefully he will become a better, I don't say better person, but maybe he will improve himself. This is what we should be doing with Orthodox Christians, not complaining and gossiping like a bunch of women. So I'm sick of this nonsense. It's just so bothersome. Go somewhere else if you're going to do that. Don't come, again, anyone. Jonathan Pajot, Bible Illustrated. If you have problems with these people, you can, oh, he said this, but like, oh, he did this to me. I don't care. I don't care. Pray for him. If you have a personal issue, pray for that person. Please. That's the best. That's what we're called to do. Do I not do that sometimes? Of course. Does he not do that sometimes? Does other people? No, of course. Are we supposed to do that? Also, of course. So it's just kidding. Like, I just had to say it because it's not just this chat, but like other Discord servers or Twitter group. It just happens all the time. And you're diving yourself deep into sin, and you don't even realize it. And this could be, again, any person, literally any person. Stop gossiping, please. It's just bothersome. Anyways, that's basically what little rant, but I think it just has to be said. Yeah, I mean, it has to be said. Again, it can be about any person. Like, it annoys me more because it's my friend. But if it was any other content creator, I would still, like, for example, another example, I have personal issues with people that run Trisagian Films. Do you see me complain about them? No. They do beautiful work for Orthodoxy. They're amazing people. They just made a really bad podcast, and I pointed out my problem. I talked to the person one of the person that runs it, and he kind of just hand-waved me. That's completely fine. Like, there's no need to cause bigger issues than that. Everyone has personal flaws. And we should appreciate what good they do for us. And if they have any problems, even though we did nothing wrong to them, we should just say, you know what, man? That was not cool, but you do great things. And for that, I will still support you. Again, so in my channel, like, recommended feed, I think I had Trisagian Films. I had issues with the person. I still have it. I'll still recommend people to follow Trisagian Films. I'll still recommend people to check out even Bible Illustrated. If it's like on a basic video, I will recommend people to check Jonathan Pajot. I will recommend because they do good work, even if they have problems. I will recommend Father Josiah. Again, we don't need to like be a bunch of women. Like, just chat. Please, this is not orthodoxy. This is just secularism. It's pathetic, and I'm disgusted. And this is what I was talking about, right? What did I say just a couple of seconds ago? I pointed out, you want bishops to be good, be better. Completely about online personalities is a weakling's job. The reason why I mention other online personalities is because I point out what arguments they did. That's normal. And if someone is critiquing me, he's going to point out what arguments I did. But it's just whatever, man. But I don't know. It has to be said. I'm sorry, boys, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
Well, also relevant to a recent video you posted is just constantly hounding people for mistakes, or maybe even perceived mistakes, without even trying to understand what their view is.
Yeah, I mean, you already saw, like, in that video, one of the first screenshots I pointed out doesn't even want to talk with us. Okay, then, like, why do you expect us to? That's the thing. Like, that's the manifestation of this new cult in Orthodoxy, where people think they're becoming holy by chatterboxing about people they don't like. That's not holiness. You're driving yourself to hell. It's just true. Even if you become Orthodox, you're going to drive yourself to hell. And I don't want that for you. And it's just annoying, man.
People try to discredit based on a common trope. Like, for example, let's say I say, hey, you know what? Schmemann has a good point here. He's got some good scholarship over here. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're a modernist because you're promoting Schmemann. It's like,
yeah. It's like, I mean, okay, we don't like Fordham University, but you look at, for example, a PhD dissertation on Leontius of Jerusalem. That's from Fordham, and well, it's back before Fordham was what it is today, but it was still Jesuit at that time, even. But I mean, that PhD dissertation that I constantly cite on Leontius of Jerusalem, that's amazing because, first of all, like it's from a Jesuit university, but the book starts by attacking Roman Catholic Christology. I mean, I love it. It's just really good. But or and that's it's so I see this so common. I'm gonna use a really lame analogy, but I see this in soccer too, football as well. Like people will worship football players when they have a good run, and then when they have a like good couple games, and when they play bad like 2 or 3 games, suddenly they become like these worst people alive that should be like that get attacked all the time. And it's like, man, it's just so insane. Like you don't see what's good about them, and maybe they might be overall bad, but we could try seeing the good of some people at least. Is I feel so dirty saying this because I don't know. I feel like I don't do that as often as so, but it's something that needs to be done. But anyways, all right. A lot of people were very for us. We can become. I don't even remember half the stuff that I say when I look at the comp, but I do. Oh, Luke Kendrat's here in the chat. He said he's Orthodoxy first. I think he's in the chat. Hello, Luke. Nice to see you here. I don't know if he's still here, but love that guy's streams. Time for Vespers. Have a good stream. Thank you, Grug. Have a nice Vespers. Have a good worship. And okay, I don't see anything from the chat, but never underestimate the power of the lecture is called synchronized.
Yeah, the diorite appellation is so bizarre, like because everything that Jay says was stuff I believed and learned off of reading theology before I met him. So like I mean I didn't have the pre-sub view, but all the stuff about the filioque, energies, Trinity, all of that, I already believed that, and then it's like believing that is now like a diorite thing, even though it's just it's bizarre.
Yeah, that's also another. Yeah, it's just classic. It's rhetoric. Like at the end of the day, what's the essence of it? It's rhetoric. So you can't really hate it because it's just something. Like the intention is to basically make your position weak by any means necessary. And a lot of people will act like, oh, that's terrible. No, I mean, rhetoric is a real thing. So that's basically what it is. But it also shows people who use that term, they also show themselves as people that have no idea what they're talking about. So it's really easy. It's an easy way to discern who knows who actually knows what they're talking about and who doesn't. Why does the rejection of DDT lead to trites? Yeah, you can address this. I'll get some water. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go for it. So, like, let's go back to Nicaea, right? So at Nicaea, there's two important things to know. First of all, when Athanasius makes his arguments against Arius, his main concern, and Khaled Anatolios points this out in his book on Athanasius, is that Athanasius is very concerned about the Son being something external to the Father, right? And that's the whole point of the begottenness. So the Son issues forth or comes from, is begotten of, from the Father's nature. And because there's this continuity between the Father and the Son, they share the same nature in that kind of a perfect unity that other beings don't, because we're spatially separated, and it's not the same kind of begetting that goes on here. So there's that sense, because then otherwise you'd have the Son and the Father separate. You wouldn't have that continuity between them, and that the continuity of the divine nature being shared between those two persons. So there's that way in which you would get two persons. I'm just going to say, just keep it to Father and Son for the moment. But then there's the other thing at Nicaea, which you notice if you read Nicaea, this idea of having multiple principles, right? So if the Son and the Spirit aren't proceeding from the Father as a principle, then that means that they are all three arse, they're all God of themselves. Then you get tritheism, right? Because you have three principles. Because they're not from anything. They're all arse. So unlike in the monarchical view where the Father alone is arse. And then if you read Nicaea, they say if anyone introduces more than one principle, then they have introduced more than one God. And that's the problem with rejecting the processions that I understand. That seems to me.
Oh, hello, Joseph. I see you, sir. He says, and I see Landbjord. He says, David, we are standing by. Tell us what coin, and we will pump at your word. Oh man, sir, we're gonna run the operation. I'm just kidding. I'm not running a pump and dump operation. I'm not doing that because that's illegal, I think. But even if it wasn't, I'm not doing that. Neo-Palimistic real med-schismatic Bible only diarism. That's a good Twitter bio to have. Like you see all these like crazy people on Twitter that have like these mental illness bios. You know what I'm referring to. It's just like one of those things. Every time I see a person with that kind of a bio, I'm like, oh, you. It's just, I don't know, just strange. But Latrix has a good question. I think you can answer this. What do you guys think are the biggest weaknesses in Islamic attribute doctrine? What do you mean by attribute doctrine? I don't know what that precisely means. Lewis, can you help me out here? He says, what do you guys think are the biggest weaknesses in Islamic attribute doctrine? Doctrine on attributes, I mean?
Yeah, so they have a view of, I guess you could say, the divine attributes like love and all that stuff, but they actually have like 13 or more, depending on what school you follow. So I'm really simplifying this, but you have like power, will, there's like the two ones I think off the top of my head, like knowledge, and then a bunch of other ones, like seeing, hearing, and they don't think they're identical to the essence of God. So they don't have or at least in the traditional Ash'ari view, they don't have like a ADS view. That's actually condemned. The Mutazilites were heretics, and they were condemned for having an ADS view. But I suppose what's odd about the attributes in Islam is that they have this formula that says the attributes are neither God nor other than God.
Yeah.
Which is just seems like a contradiction on the face of it. And Anthony Rogers points out in debate. He said, "What's his name? That famous Sheikh Hamza Yusuf in his introduction to I think it's a creed, a translation of a creed. He says it's like asking a Muslim to square a circle in his head, like it's paradoxical or whatever." So yeah, I think that's one thing. The other thing is that in saying that you don't. If you have these attributes which are not God, and they're not other than him, but they're also uncreated and eternal, then it seems to me like you have these, unlike in the Christian view where everything we would say, the divine energies are deity. We would say the person's a deity and all that stuff. If you're not going to say they're deity or they're God, then what are they? I mean, so yeah. Just there's these separate, uncreated, eternal things that have no consubstantiality with Allah. I mean, that's just some problems I see initially, but I still have more reading to do on that. I'm still trying to understand like whether I should couch, because sometimes the Islamic theologians sound really Aristotelian, but then sometimes they sound kind of Neoplatonic, and I'm trying to figure out where to kind of couch it to understand it. It's more complicated even, I think
This is not.
people.
I will couch it as this. I will kind of simplify something like this as, for example, Islam, like one of the slogans, rhetorical slogans, is that Allah is one and He's absolutely one. Well, okay, but like, in which senses? All senses? Well, it can't be all senses because there's a plurality of attributes. So it cannot be all senses, right? And so the moment you kind of breach that, I think that's when you kind of understand that it really is just a mere slogan, right? Because they still have that kind of a problem with couching. How is there a unity between multiple things? Can there even be unity between multiple things? And another thing is where ultimately, which is I think the biggest weakness against their Trinitarian apologies is that if they can admit some form of plurality in God, then why do they complain so much when we do the same thing in just in a different level, right? Now, of course, they're going to say, oh, three persons, whatever, but all of that has been answered. So, for example, the three persons are united by essence. There's no separability in the Trinity. There's no separability in the deity or anything like that in the relations whatsoever, right? And they are, again, united by essence, not to say that there are three essences united, but the three persons are united by the oneness of essence, which is also why we are separate. But like some people ask, oh, but if it's one nature, three persons with one will, then why do all human beings have different wills? Because we're not united by essence. That's kind of like the simple answer to that. We don't have that unity. We have that fallen separability, both from God and also from each other. And like in general, when you actually look at it from that perspective, you start to realize really Islam doesn't have anything to attack Christianity on that argument, because they have to admit some form of plurality in God. They just call it the attributes, right? But why stop there, right? And
Yeah,
how is it even true to Allah is absolutely one? Well, you have a plurality of attributes. Are they fully divine? If they're fully divine, then doesn't seem to be only one deity, if you kind of catch my drift here. And then you will start to understand the kind of weakness of the Islamic position, and that because they don't have the kind of nuanced doctrine of God's processions, energies, and whatnot. They don't have that. And so the kind of weak foundation that gets exposed, I think, because of that. But that's just what I think. I might be completely wrong, of course, but that's kind of how I would go against the Muslim.
I just want to say, like, in a sense, we are united by essence because we all share the same human nature, but we don't share the same degree of unity that the divine,
Yes.
that the Trinity
Because
does.
the persons are not united. Yeah. We are united by essence because we have the same essence, but the persons are even more than that. They're united
because of the perichoresis.
The divine indwelling, yes. That's the word I was trying to find. Yeah. And there's no separability, whereas separability does exist in the post-fallen material world. But I don't like to use the term divine realm, but think of a divine realm. There's no separability here. That concept just doesn't exist in there. There's just doesn't. It's just something, a misnomer. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, and the other thing the fathers say is that you can't strictly speaking conceive of one person of the Trinity without immediately bringing the other two in with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can talk about them conceptually, like, and distinguish them conceptually in the sense conceptually, but in another sense you can't, because Father implies Son, and in the patristic view, Father implies Spirit as well.
Mm-hmm. There's another. Oh, there's a question, but someone asked Orto Christos. By the way, hello, Baptiste Hannon. Haven't seen you on Twitter in a while, but thank you for tuning into the stream. Orto Christos asks, here's an interesting one. Why are Orthodox so absent from the anti-abortion war? It is literally killing babies, yes. We seem like we are scared. Definitely, I do agree. What do you think about that, Lewis? I'm thinking of reasons, but there are people that are kind of in that sphere that can maybe give that answer. Maybe you can.
Could you repeat the question for me?
The question is, why are Orthodox Christians so absent from the anti-abortion war? It
Oh,
seems
okay.
like, yeah, like why are bishop? I think he's kind of referring to more to the bishops and the priests and the
Well, first of all,
late.
because we're not numerous. That would be the
Hmm.
first thing. We're not numerous in the West. If you look at, say, Russia, for example, the church is constantly pushing for more and more restrictions on abortion.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, in the West, we're not very numerous. But also, I think there's also a sense of, because most Orthodox in the West are immigrants, there's this kind of sense of, well, we're living here, we should kind of keep our heads down. Like, I think that there's that as well. Um, Beyond that, I think also that the bishops, there's a lot more of a disconnect in the bishops' minds between the political world and the faith than there is in Roman Catholicism. And I think it's unfortunate, but I'd say that's another reason why.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot can be said about American bishops. So I'll keep it short, but there's definitely that disconnect for sure. But aside from that, I will definitely agree. There's just not enough numbers, really. I personally know many people who are trying to get things going. I listen to sermons from priests talking against abortion, West priests in the West. In Russia, they're so against abortion that they even are like they're making synod saying you can't take this stabby, you can't take that stabby because it has aborted fetal cells, right? So Russia definitely, the Russian church is trying to deal with that for sure. And the question here, if the cause of the Son is not an act of will, how should we understand as the Father has life in himself, so also he has granted to the Son to have life in himself? Since granting is by will, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is I think, I might be wrong from the concept, but this might be referring to the human nature of Christ, right? The human nature gets energized by the life of the divine energies. And ultimately, the source of the divine will energies from the Father. That's why it's said that way. And that life is granted from the Father to Christ's human nature. That's kind of like what my first guess. But if it kind of refers to Christ's divinity, does it do that? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think there's just an assumption here of reading creaturely uses of terms back into God. So obviously, if I was to say the Son is begotten of the Father, well, one would say, oh, but like begetting is by will, like you beget willingly, right? Like you have children by will in it, and it's like, well, yeah, but the point is that in God, in the Father, it's not, it's not with the Son. It's a natural thing. So I think the same would be the case with granting. Just because we see that granting is done by will, around here, doesn't mean that it has to be done by will in God. The other thing I'd say is it's not like, yeah, it's not by will, but it's also not unwilling, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like, imagine if I had like a reflex to save myself from pain or something, like I touched something hot. It's not like I didn't will to do that, but it's not also that I was unwilling to remove my hand from this burning hot plate or something. So there's that other sense too.
Yeah, later on, after for as the Father hath life in himself, so hath he given to the Son to have life in himself, and hath given him authority to execute judgment also because he is the Son of Man. So I think this kind of like a collection of both of our answers. I think that might be what's also referred to. Uh, yeah. And also again, like for example, granting, right? Don't get too focused on those terms. If you read the Old Testament, you're gonna see God, like it says, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. No, I
For
don't think
God,
any church father, yeah, no church father says God actually like was the reason. It's a rhetorical device to emphasize his power over everything, and that he recognized and that he understood that Pharaoh kept his heart hardened. So that's basically what the church fathers essentially say about that verse. So if you get kind of bogged down to like these terms and just like, oh, but how can the Son be God if the life was granted to him? We can't really get bogged down to those kinds of debates, because ultimately that kind of a precept, it sounds really logical to do that. Like, I definitely understand where that kind of viewpoint comes from. As I said, it seems very logical, because a lot of people have this kind of, oh, the theology comes from the scripture, whereas no, really, not really. Scripture is obviously important, but really it's the Christian, you can say, deposit of the faith that is there. So even if you didn't have the scripture, there is still that deposit of faith, right? That's why, as I said, I don't think like a lot of people might not understand the kind of importance of the lives of the saints because of that. But if you read Saint Justin Popper, he says the lives of the saints is a continuation of the life of Christ. So the gospel is not only something that is written, it's not something you just say, it's also something that is lived by, and it can live by another person's writings, tradition, icons, and whatnot. So that's why I don't like. It's a good thing to not get bogged down to like the it uses this term. Usually that's not the case, but it's important to kind of understand what is really being said here, right? It's kind of what is being said. What is Christ saying here? What does he mean? Well, he's trying to say that he has authority from the Father, right? That's one of the things that he's trying to say in John 5. So I think that definitely helps a lot more. And obviously, church father commentaries definitely help. So the reading from them is also really good. And there's a lot of commentaries on New Testament, Old Testament books. I'm doing a series on Genesis based on the commentary of St. Cyril, for example. So there's definitely that aspect. But yeah, that will be my answer. Answer. Oh, why did you choose to focus on Oriental Orthodoxy? Well, I pointed out in part 0 that I don't have any personal, like, as in like emotional, personal reasons for doing so. In fact, this will be the last thing, because I have, like, in my personal life, we are very close to many different Oriental Orthodox Christians, actually, by my family. In fact, they were, like, for the longest time, they were the only Christians that I actually even knew about. And they were very happy when they learned that I was Eastern Orthodox. They were very pleased. They were very pleasantly surprised that I became a Christian. And we had really good relations. I visited their church. People are going to criticize me for that. And it's definitely something, I know that's a different topic, but I will say don't kind of just pray in other churches. I did make that kind of mistake. I'm going to be open about it, but I didn't know better at that time. This was like very long time ago as well. But why? Well, for multiple reasons. Because if you were on Discord, you will know, and if you're a catechumene or incar, you will know a lot of Oriental Orthodox trying to poach you. Okay, I saw that happening all the time. They will kind of play this ecumenist game, and then they will poach inquirers and say, hey, join our ecumenical Orthodox Discord server, and we can have a lot of things to talk about. And then they just slowly just indoctrinate these people. And it's like, okay, you're getting converts, maybe true, but you're doing it in such a dirty, dishonest manner that someone has to just say no to that. And that bothered me. And another thing is that it's just that I met with those apologetics, and I, at the time when I saw it, I was like, damn, maybe it is true. Like I had this happen with anything. Sometimes I thought maybe atheism is true. Sometimes I thought in my life in Christianity, maybe Roman Catholicism is true. So I looked into the papacy and its theology. Sometimes I thought maybe Oriental Orthodoxy is true. And I was really, really tempted by it. And what I really did, I asked questions, and I realized there's really no one except myself that can help me. So what can I do? Well, I can just look into them through their own writings. That's exactly what I did. I looked at what our fathers said, and then I looked at what their fathers said. And the more I read, the more I became certain of my own faith, and the more I realized, yep, these are wrong. So that's basically, it's just, and I'm one of the very few people who actually read Oriental works, even amongst, I will argue personally, from what I've experienced, even amongst Oriental Orthodox Christians, I don't think they have really read their own works either. I don't think they've read Severus that much. They can quote something here and there, but they can't really give an account to many of the things. We're going to see in a debate if my opponent can do that. The previous opponent tried not to get to that part of the debate, I think for a good reason. But I read and I just said, there's no way this is true. Like, a lot of stuff that I read was genuinely scandalizing to me. And over time, I basically learned, like, yeah, I'm the only one who actually knows about any of this stuff. So if there's anyone that's going to do this job, it might as well be. So this is why it's just, there was just demand for it. Someone had to do it. It happened to be me. It's really kind of just boring like that. But again, someone just had to do it. We already have many people dealing with other stuff about orthodoxy. This one not being tackled, it just didn't sit right with me. So I did it, and thank God he helped me a lot, I think. Otherwise, it might have gone bad. But I mean, I'm honest. I mean, it did tempt me, but it tempted me because I didn't know what they said. I didn't know the full story from either side. I just didn't know. And I'm not the kind of a person who's going to be like, oh, I'll just vaguely pray, and in 2 months I'll just forget about it, or I'll just be ecumenist about it. No. I have to know about it, and that's the route I took, and that's the route I will advise people to take. Alex says Orientals don't even proselytize. Oh, very ethnic based archaic churches. A lot of people say we are like that. I think those Roman Catholics can criticize Orientals for that, not us really. But I don't like making those kinds of arguments. But to me, because as I said, to me, you cannot proselytize for 1,000 years, and I think you can still have the correct theology if you have the correct theology. Anything else can kind of be explained away. That's kind of how I think of things. So it's like, yeah, but at the same time, like,
same, David.
Yeah, like, yeah, they don't proselytize, but have you ever seen their history? Armenia, they were down bad for thousands of years, and they're still down bad today. First of all, other than the Ethiopians, none of these people have their own countries. At least Greeks, Russians, at least they have their own countries today. And they had their countries 1,000 years. I mean, they had their countries 1,000 years ago. At least there's the Roman Empire doing missionary work. At least the West had colonization and a lot of government subsidies to do missionary work. These people had nothing, man. I mean, we can't really be unfair to them either in that regard. It's like, I mean, okay, Ethiopians might have done it, but like, think of, like, how can you expect a cop to do proselytization when he's just trying to survive in the Middle East? And people are going to be surprised. Wow, David, you're being too nice. No, it's just the reality. Now, whether like on other discussions, that's a different thing. But like, you have to admit, like, it's very difficult to proselytize when you're being like hunted. Like with even in Turkey today. I mean, you think this is an easy country to proselytize today? No, it's not really. It is not really. Not the West. It's a hard job, and it's even harder when people want to kill you for being Christian. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't expect Armenia to be even able to do missionary work even today. Like tomorrow, one day, Armenia might just be gone. Like, they might just not exist anymore. So it's pretty difficult to do missionary work when you're barely alive. I don't know.
Yeah, I would just say the archaicness or degree of ethnicity of your church doesn't have any bearing whatsoever on how true the theology is or not, which is what really matters.
Yes.
So I agree with you 100%.
Like, look at Israel.
Don't throw this around. It's like,
yeah, it's a Roman Catholic argument.
It looks kind of Roman Catholic. Yeah, it looks kind of Roman Catholic. Literally, yeah.
Yeah. Let Roman Catholics use bad arguments. We don't need them. I mean, think of Israel in the Old Testament period. You think they were the masters of pro-civilization? Even when they had good kingdoms, they had a tough job. The God had to like severely help them, like He always does, but like even more so with Israel. So it's like it just doesn't make sense. And our inheritance is from them, whether we like it or not. Is from not the modern day Israel. They're not the successors. I'm talking about Old Testament, right? We're successors. We shared that lineage. That's our lineage. I will even go as far as to argue that's the lineage of the Roman Empire, the Christian Roman Empire, in fact, in many regards. Um, as an early Catholic human, what do I do? What I do know, what I do if I know a specific clergy you mentioned before, whom has sympathized with BLM, Marx, etc. But my priest is good. Oh, I guess she's saying I do know about, but my priest. Yeah, I think a lot of priests are good. They have problems, but everyone has problems. My priest back when I was in the US, for a lot of people might have, I mean, if you think I am too aggressive, he is the reason why I am like not hyper, like even aggressive. Like he really, um, he is the one who really made me, I don't know, like really judge myself a lot more. I don't want to like say, I'm a sinner, but no, like he really helped me judge myself a lot more and really made me consider what kind of a person I want to be. So even among like a priest doesn't need to be based to be a good priest. A priest needs to know how to be a father to be a really good priest. And thank God I had a priest like that, even if for 2 years, and even if I made very severe, stupid mistakes in my life, even if he didn't have the time to look after me, I'm very influenced by him in a very positive way. And again, he's very soft spoken, very gentle person. Um, that's basically what helped me a lot. So yeah, that definitely I can agree. So as I said, that's kind of another thing. It's like you got to be a good father. You got to be a good head of the family. So that's what's really difficult about being a priest. You take being a mother or a father is worse. Try being a priest. You have multiple children you have to look after. It's very difficult.
I would say if you're in this kind of situation where your priest is good, but then like, another parish clergy is perhaps not so good, I would scroll back to the advice we gave earlier about problematic clergy. But I think it's a difficult situation. I have personal experience with parishes that are kind of liberal leaning. I think it depends. Are you planning to make this place permanent? Because what will usually happen is, if that's a deacon, then they will probably become
It is a
priest
deacon,
after
by
you're
the way.
priest.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is a deacon. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if it is a deacon, then they might get ordained to the priesthood to replace your priest later, unless they're like the same age, in which case it'll probably just stay like that forever. It depends how long you're staying there. If you think it's going to be a permanent thing that's going to take over the parish, and there's nothing you can do about it, it might be worth considering changing to a different parish. If that's not possible, then consider it a podvig, and work through it. Attend church, receive the sacraments, be a good Orthodox Christian, talk about it with people who will listen and who can give you good advice. Metropolitan Jonah does catechism in the Discord. He's worth coming to ask about this.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, there's not an awful lot you can do. It's just a question of your long suffering being something that's going to accumulate for you reward in heaven, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Catechism in a Discord, but yeah, Metropolitan Jonah catechisms are pretty. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like when it first happens, like an actual metropolitan doing catechism for people online. It's there were I'm so sorry. Maybe if Jeb's watching this, he might say this in chat, but there's either a saint or a metropolitan in Russia that said, or like one of the martyrs that's or something like that said, the internet like is going to have its use, and its usage is going to be about spreading the gospel, right? So it has its use, and it should be used that way. And if you can navigate that, that's great. And we can't be boomers about it, right? Because I grew up in the kind of image board critique culture where my only exposure to religion was seeing these quacks using like being these like cultish gurus online, and we can't really be boomers about it either. We have to know to navigate. We have to know how will people act here, right? The way people act online is obviously going to be very, very distinct and different the way people act in real life. And if people who try to spread the faith not know how to navigate that, and the thing is, like we're like part of the internet, right? You and I, Lewis. Even we don't know how to navigate the internet. I mean, like it's been more than a year since I've started doing a YouTube channel. And like I'm having a really tough time trying to navigate how to be like a content creator who's not some weakling that lets everyone run over. How can I like kind of do all of these things at the same time while also trying to be more? It's just very difficult, right? So it's genuine. That's why like even like as I said, that's why I kind of mentioned a lot of the YouTubers that I have personal issues with, that I love and support their channel. It's because, yes, some of them do very wrong stuff, but this stuff is really difficult, man. Like it's actually really difficult to keep yourself sane. Like, it's very easy. Like it's genuinely incredibly easy to look at people as like, I wish I had a channel like this. It's like, you really want to? It's not a nice thing. You got to be very presentable. You have to. It's just difficult for a lot of people online. It's so hard for people, even for people who like was born with the internet, to navigate through it. And so I can't really blame people like Father Josiah or like Father Spiridon when they have a hard time navigating online, right? Nevertheless, a lot of Twitter priests are really bad. I had to comment on that. What I mean by that, I'm not talking about Father John Whiteford, but a lot of Twitter priests they don't know how to navigate online. So that's sad. Oh yeah, Jeb's in the chat. He says that was Father John Christiankin. So he pointed out that the internet is going to be used, kind of going to be important for Orthodox Christians to use. So it has its usage. It's not this. A lot of people are like, "Oh, internet is evil." Well, no, it's not really evil. You just have to know how to use it. That's very difficult. And Father Daniel Sisoyev was known for debating people on internet forums. Another thing I remember is like he will debate even like anime avatars. They're made fun of. He will debate discuss with anime avatars, and we have like a future canonized saint who like we're gonna see some of the messages he posted and like the people that he debated with, and so that's starting to become a thing. And it's definitely going to be important that we kind of I definitely agree. For example, Father Deacon Ananias makes a very great point. Like be like Father Deacon Ananias. Like he understands that online very dangerous, right? Internet's very dangerous, but he uses it and he navigates through it, and he knows like he's part of it. He knows he uses it to spread the gospel, and that's his job as a deacon, and he's doing a very good job, Father Deacon Ananias. And yeah, I don't know what was even the question. I just went on a rant, but that's just this. But I don't know. Yeah, I just wanted to point out. Do you know Sister Vasa? I heard that she is pro LGBT, so someone you should stay away from. That's all I know. That's correct, right? I hope I'm not slandering her, but
yeah, there was an email released correspondence with her and someone who was, I think it was a parent who was asking about what they should do with the gay child or whatever, and she was like, "Oh yeah, just let them, do it and let them have their partner or whatever." Or
okay.
And then I think, and I don't quote me on this, but I don't know if it's actually from Vladimir Mark of Berlin. but I saw that there was an email which is allegedly by him because people were complaining to him because she was, I think, under his kind of authority at the time. People were complaining to him about it, and he basically said, "She's not listening to me." Like, so
Oh, yeah, no,
that's
stay away.
what I saw. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I saw.
Okay. Shahid asks, what are your thoughts on Kosovo? This is, I can predict this is going to be another log to it, but a lot of people are good. Maybe they're not going to be surprised, but I forgot he was either the last metropolitan of Serbia or the one before metropolitan of Filia. Is he? He said if a Serbian woman aborts her babies and a Kosovar woman gives birth to her children, then God will see it fit to give Kosovo to Albanians and give the land to whoever deserves it. So this is a Serbian bishop, by the way. Again, like the head of the Serbian church at the time said this, and I definitely agree with this. Yeah, Patriarch Pavel. Serbia lost Kosovo because Serbs were aborting kids and Albanians were having kids. Exactly. Patriarch Pavel said that. So um, Albanians deserve Kosovo, period, because Serbians are aborting their babies. It's as simple as that. You don't need to get into the politics or the history or whatever. That none of that matters to me. Um, if you what does Deuteronomy 28 say? God says that if you follow my commandments, my laws, I will bless you, I will protect you, I will support you, and I will give you victories over other nations, and I will make them beloved you. But if you don't listen to me, if you don't follow my laws, if you disobey me, I'm going to make you their slave, basically. They're going to take your lands, they're going to invade you, and I'm going to let them do that. So I'm just telling you this. He told this to Israel, and this is a message to Christian nations worldwide. This is why we lost the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire was too busy sucking up to the state because they thought the religion was something expendable. They just said, oh, let's just unite with Rome so we can keep the state alive. Guess what? They did that for I'm gonna say 400 years. They did that for 400 years, and even before that, there were warning signs for that. But they did this for 400 years. What happened? Roman Empire fell because of that. What happened to Russia? Look at the last years of Russia before the Communist Revolution. You think Russia before the Communist Revolution was this Christian place, this amazing place? No, bunch of heretics, bunch of people who don't follow God's laws. Russia got taken over. This is a warning that God gave to every Christian nation due to 28. And this is what happened to Kosovo. And Serbians that don't want to listen to it, you're just kidding yourself. In fact, here's what I'm going to say to you. You think it's only going to be Kosovo? You keep it like this, it's not just going to be Kosovo. I can tell you that much. It's not just going to be Kosovo. You're going to lose even more. And Bosnians, Croatians, they're going to get more of your lands because you don't follow God. I'm not preaching a prosperity gospel kind of stuff, because people that follow God can go through hard stuff. That's definitely true. It's not this like kind of like one-to-one prosperity gospel nonsense. I'm not saying that either. However, it's a general rule. And if God lets you be taken over by your enemies, you have to ask yourself, well, why did he let that happen? Why did he let that happen to me? You have to do some self-examination. And Serbians have to do that. This doesn't mean that Albanians are perfect people or whatever. I like Albanians, but that doesn't mean they're perfect people. They have problems that they have to solve on their own. Otherwise, the same thing can happen to them, right? On a different scale. Maybe the UN is going to take over, or NATO, not the UN, but the NATO. NATO will take over them. Maybe the US will have cultural imperialism. It's going to happen to them too, and I think it's happening right now. So it's really all about following God, and that's what I think about Kosovo, Albania, so that kind of stuff. To me, again, if you ask me on a political level of who has a greater claim to Kosovo, well, Serbia for sure. But do I care about that? No, I don't care about that. I mean, does Greece have a better claim to Istanbul than Turks? Yeah. Do I care about that? No, I don't really care about that because we don't deserve Istanbul. Uh, the only if we deserve Istanbul if we actually follow God. That's really what's the case. That's. I say this as someone who's Turkish, basically. I don't know why I act as if I'm Greek, but I am Greek ethnically, but I'm also Turkish. So That's basically what I think, and I think this is the healthiest mindset. I'm not attacking nationalism or whatever. I'm not counter-signaling that. I'm just saying, if you put nation over the religion in any sense or capacity, even if you act as if you put the religion over the over the nation, if you put the nation over the faith, you don't deserve anything. It's as simple as that. No matter what your ethnicity is, no matter what your nation is. Mm-hmm. Uh, so how did you like that? Again, I said this was going to be a long rant. Actually, it wasn't. Oh, it was a pretty long rant as well. But Old Testament shows what happens when God's people don't listen. Babylonian captivity, Nebuchadnezzar. Exactly. We've seen this in the Old Testament, and this is the Orthodox position for sure. It is really follow God and nothing's. That's the most important thing. Everything's gonna come later. So, do you have anything else? It's been 2 hours, man.
By the way, my
I've been
silence is
talking
because
too
I
much.
completely agreed with you on everything you said.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, it's not the first time we're talking about this. We talked in earlier podcasts too, to my memory, right? Or no?
I think we did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we
talked
did.
about-
Like, it's,
I think we talked about the Hagia Sophia. That was what it was about. It's
yeah,
similar.
yeah, yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, short. I want to summarize this. Christ is above all nations. Think of it that way, but don't think that your nation is worthless or it's worth defending, whatever it is. Take the example of Saint Nicholas of Japan. We saw this stupid article unfortunately, by Ortho Christian about why nationalism is bad. I don't think most of the people who are associated with Ortho Christian actually agree with that article, but look at Saint Nicholas of Japan. What does he do? Saint Nicholas of Japan says to Japanese Christians, you should pray for the Japanese homeland. I am Russian. I will pray for my Russian homeland, but you should pray for your own homeland because the faith is above me. This is all above me. And we have to take that. So you see, Saint Nicholas of Japan, even though he placed faith above nation, is still a nationalist. He's still a patriot, a true patriot. Like, if you asked him his political views today, he will probably be sent to jail for being a far right whatever for his political views. But he still understood that faith is what's important, and that's what we need more of that, please. Saint Seraphim of Sorrow's writings were almost completely lost because nobody took him seriously because he was a peasant. That should show where Russia was in the late 19th century. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that just goes to show what's the kind of the state Russia was at that time. So it's really clear, right? It is very. In fact, I kind of think of making a video about the why did the Roman Empire fall, which is going to be very similar to what I said here, but with more details because there's a lot of things that people haven't known. I'm stupid. That don't know. So a lot of people don't know some of the stuff. That's what I meant. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this kind. Albania isn't a real country. It was set up by the Turks to prevent turncoat. Like, that's not true. Like that's politically not true. Like, even if you hate Albanians, like that's not true. It's just not. Baptiste Sandin says, if you guys want to read Saint Seraphim, I suggest a Little Russian Philokalia. That edition contains prophetic words showing the bad state of Russia at the time too. So yeah, if you want to see that, you can go. You can go check that out. Do you have anything else in mind? I don't have anything that comes to my mind that I kind of like bring up.
It's getting kind of late here, and I've got to talk to
Yeah.
Sabik and Kakish
Mhm.
about the debate.
Yeah. We can end it here, I think. Definitely. We already talk about we already talked for 2 hours. Really, I just ranted about a lot of different stuff, but I like this chill stream. And it seems like the stream worked for everyone. Like we didn't have any stream issues, so that makes me confident. Yeah, 2 days later, when the debate happens with Severin Zealot, when we're gonna have, I think, a high quality. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm not gonna hold back in the sense that I'm not gonna like try to keep things basic. Like I'll respect the opponent. I'll assume he knows what he's talking about. If he doesn't, then that's his problem. But I'll assume he knows what he's talking about, and it'll be a highbrow debate. So definitely, it's gonna be a very good debate, way better than the previous one, because the previous one was if you ask me, it was a joke. Like it was a joke. It's just the same basic, like repetitive stuff. Oh, they said this about Ibas in Chalcedon. To like really basic stuff. We need to go beyond that if you want to actually if you actually want to get somewhere. But
I wasn't a fan of the format either. Like,
I'm
a lot more hands off than Craig.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Craig did a good job at what he could do. I forgot to mention, yeah,
he
Craig
did a
is
good job of
another good channel.
moderating.
Yeah.
He did a good job of moderating. I didn't personally. I would have preferred if he would have not interjected and interrupted the flow of the conversation as often as he did. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I guess you
No
could say
disrespect
that.
to him. If he likes to moderate that way, that's fine.
But
If
I
wants
think he did a good job. I think he did a
I don't
good
think he did a
job.
bad job. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I prefer to just let things go on their natural course, unless it gets really off.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a good time to end, because now people are talking whether Albania is real. No, Albania is real. Okay, they're Illyrians. I mean, we don't need to cope on that. So
Well, we have a church. We have an there's a church.
we have
there,
an
isn't there?
Albanian. Yeah, we have an Albanian Orthodox church. Yeah, that's canonical, right? But yeah, I guess this will be it. Thank you all for watching this. Thanks, Lewis, for today, and in 2 days you're gonna have a great debate. And thank you all for watching this. I'll see you guys in 2 days. This was a good stream, and I'm just saying the same things over and over again. I'll see you guys in the debate. God be with
See
you
you
all.
guys.